I listened to a podcast about the relationship between autistic people and the autistic mind and human innovation and like systemic thinking about things in systems and basically human improvement. And it was really interesting. And one of the points that was made was about innovation being such a human characteristic. And the speakers put it in the context of tool use, right? So they said that like a chimpanzee will use a rock to open a nut, let's say, and that's like tool. That's the animal discovering a tool that helps them achieve a goal and manipulate reality in a more valuable, effective way because they can access the food in the hard shell of the nut that they couldn't do without the rock. Excellent. But then the chimpanzee doesn't necessarily try and innovate and go, well, how can I make the perfect rock that like breaks the nut at quickest speed or in the most effective way? How do I improve this process? Because the process already works. You know, the chimp just finds a rock, whacks the nut, it's done. Whereas a human being takes a tool, let's say, and I think tool I use here in a very broad sense. It doesn't have to necessarily be a physical tool. It can be a piece of technology or a mechanism, a machine, a system. And we don't just go, okay, that works. We go, it works, but how can we make it better? Right? How can we innovate and improve so it's more effective, so the way that we manipulate reality is more valuable, that we can get a greater outcome from this same system? What alterations can we make? And I mean, that point itself isn't necessarily about autism. It was just a point about the human psyche and how we've got to where we are now. It's one of those things, our drive for innovation. Very interesting. Then it made me think about the human drive then for complexity, let's say. The human drive to make things more sophisticated. I guess that's a good way of thinking about it. And I was reminded along that train of thought of something I read in Mihai Csikszentmihalyi's book on flow, where he said one of the key characteristics of flow is a gradual increase in complexity in that task. Okay, so if you're an athlete, right, you don't just want to learn how to shoot the ball, let's say in a basketball context, right? You want to get your form right. You want to get pretty consistent, just static shooting, yeah. But then you want to kind of add a dribble move involved. Then you maybe want to add a defender. Then you want to maybe do it at the end of a shot clock, or then you have to kind of do it when you're tired. Or there are different ways you can add complexity to your training that then makes you more competent. Or if you're an artist, maybe you start with a more simple work and then get more complicated and more abstract, or more, I don't know, but you take more time in a project and do a bigger project or whatever. We're always driving towards this complexity, or linking to the innovation point, we're trying to innovate our relationship and the way that we contend with the world in whatever like activity that is for that person, in whatever line of work or hobby or skill that you're interested in and that you're trying to develop. And so all of that being said, going back to our point last week about novelty, I said that what we want is we want to find novelty in the known, right? By pursuing depth in that thing. Right. So, you know, I stick to wheelchair basketball. I'm not dancing from different sports. I stick to one thing and I try and find depth in that by trying to improve as an athlete in all those ways. I want to change the word depth to complexity. I think that does more justice. I'm trying to innovate my approach to sport, my approach to being an athlete, my approach to high performance. And I in that is that's fueled by my human natural inclination towards innovation and to improve the way I manipulate reality. And that's a really meaningful thing. And so I think that's a worthwhile thing to know, is we are constantly, we don't just want things to be good. We don't just want things to work. We want them to constantly work better and better and better and better. And so I think in our own life, we can apply that to that similar points we made last week. When you stick to a thing and you try and innovate your own approach to it, or innovate the system in which you're working, there's a lot of meaning in that. And that's the right kind of novelty, because you're confronting more and more novelty as you look for the complex and look to make things more sophisticated and more effective.